Morning. So this is the practice paper. We're getting ready for your last mock, the key assessment 4. And with no further ado, we shall make a start. So first couple of questions, we're just dealing with basic algebra. So we know something plus 8 gives us 19. So we do 19, take away 8. I get 11. And that's my answer there. Likewise here, we've got 3 times something gives us 24. So I do 24 divided by 3, and that gives me 8. And here's slightly different, but same idea. Now we start off with 20, we take away something and we end up with 7. So if I do 20, take away 7, I will be left with our answer there, which is 13. 3 more questions, nice and quick. Good stuff. So question 2, this looks a lot nastier than it actually is. The only animals in the field are sheep and cows, and the ratio is 31 to 47. And there are fewer than 100 animals in the field. And each one is only 1 mark. And it really is this simple. Write down the number of cows in the field. Well, we look, sheep and cows, so sheep and cows, there are 47. And the last one, in total, how many animals are there in the field? So we just add up the sheep and the cows. So 31 plus 47, and that gives me 78. And like I say, it tells us there are fewer than 100 animals in the field. So if we'd have multiplied that up, scaled that up, then we would have ended up with more than 100. So there was no change to do, and that was just information. Horrible looking question, but actually really basic. Question 3. A path joins A, B and C. So we go from A to B to C, and it gives us a scale. So it says write down the direction of B from A. Now that sounds like a bearing, but it doesn't ask for a bearing, it just wants a direction. We know that's north, and we're going to B from A, so we're going in this direction. So this direction is east. So it didn't want the degrees because it didn't ask for a bearing, it just wanted a direction. And then this next one, we'll work out the actual distance along the path from A to C. Don't measure between A and C, it wants the path. And it's on a centimetre grid, so this path is 1, 2, 3, 4 along, and this one is 3 along. So what we do is, jumping ahead there, 4 plus 3 gives us a total of 7 centimetres, and we know that 1 centimetre represents 10 metres. So 7 times 10 gives us 70 metres, and that is my answer for there. Okay. Question 4. Simplifying. A times B. Well, algebra, we don't bother with the multiply sign, so that is just AB. C plus C plus C. Now when we're adding, that means we've got 3 lots of C, so it's just 3C. Here we are multiplying P times P times P, so of course while we're multiplying we're going to a power, so that is P cubed. And here we are dividing D by D. So basically if we divide any amount by itself, we end up with 1. Okay. Question 5. Distance. So Jenny walks 400 metres to the shop, 250 metres to the park, and then 380 metres. And we need to show that she walks more than 1 kilometre. Now, these are all in metres, that's in kilometres. So first thing I want to show is 1 kilometre equals 1,000 metres. Then we can deal with all the others. So 400 plus 250 plus 380. So as you go through that, and I get 1030, and we can say that 1030 is greater than 1000. And there we go, we've proved it. Question 6, we're on to graphs. This time to bar chart. And of course, So there are 50 people, each choose one of bear, rhino, ox or lion, and it says complete the bar chart. So first off, we know there's 50 because it tells us there and there at the top. So we need to add up how many we've got and then take that away to find out the last one. So here, as we come up halfway between 10 and 12 is 11, this is 20, and the ox is on 14. So I'm now going to drop this down. So I've got 11, 20 and 14. So when I add those up, I have got 45, and 50 take away 45 leaves me with 5. So that means my bar must come up to here, and of course 5 is halfway between. So I'm going to do that. Now again, shading, all that kind of stuff, I think just make an attempt. It doesn't have to be brilliant. Okay, that covers that. Question 7, we're on to fractions. 80 pence is a fraction of a pound. Now, a pound we know is 100 pence. So we've got 80 over 100, which we can change down to 8 over 10, which of course drops down to 4 over 5. And that is what we're after for that one. We just want 4/5. So I know I've written it off there, preferably like that, but if you do it like that, you're still okay. Then the next one, we're going to convert 3.5 hours to minutes. So a couple of ways we can do that. 3.5 is 3.5, so we can do 3.5 times 60, and that will give us our work, and we can do that on the calculator. Or you can build it up. 3 hours, so we've got 60, 60 and 60, and half an hour is 30, and we can add those up. Either way, we are going to end up with 210 minutes. Okay, so it doesn't matter which method you use, you can do a calculator, you can build up, but that is our answer, 210 minutes. And again, more conversions. 1400 grams to kilograms. Now, there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so we need to divide 1400 by 1,000, which means we're going to move that decimal point 3 places. So we end up with 1.4 kilograms, making sure my decimal point's nice and visible. And of course, we don't need those remaining zeros, they go away. And our last one there for question 8, we're dealing with kilometers to miles, and it wants us to convert 32 kilometers into miles, and it tells us that 8 kilometers is equal to 5 miles. So I need to find out, basically I need to find out the scale for these. So if I do that, if I do 32 divided by 8, I get 4. So that means 32 divided by 4 gives me 8. And then to go backwards, full round, instead of divided by 4, I'm now going to times by 4, which is going to give me 20. So it's going to give me 20 miles. Question 9. So we've got a table, shows information about 2 workers on one day. It says Margot started work at 10:30 a.m. What time did she finish? And we can see from the table she worked 4 hours. So we can count forward. Again, it's 1 mark. You don't need to show the working out for this, but basically if we start at 10:30, we can add an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours and 4 hours. Okay, so we get to 14:30. Now, on the mark scheme, we can put 14:30. They allow it, but also they've started here at AM, and we know 14:30 is 2:30 PM. So we can have either of those answers. The next one's a bit more involved, and there's a few ways of doing this. So he's saying, Zeke says he spent more than one quarter of his total working time online. Is he correct? So we come back to our table. First off, his total working time was 8 hours. So 1/4 of 8 is 2. So we need to find out if his time online was more than that or not. And again, working time spent online in minutes is 200. And to change that into hours, if we divide it by 60, and for that one, finally, we've got to question 9 and I'm only just breaking out the calculator. You could, of course, use a calculator for all of the questions, but so far we haven't really had to. So, switch it on. 200 over 60. And that gives us, when we change that into a decimal, 3.3. Okay? Now, that isn't, be careful, because that's 3.3 hours. And effectively, we've already proved it, haven't we? Because we can say that 2 hours is less than 3.3. So is he correct? Yes, because he's done more. But just a quick one, do not write that as 3 hours and 30 minutes. It is not. It's 3 hours and 0.3 of an hour, a third of an hour. So this, I'm just going to scribble that down. This is actually 3 hours and 20 minutes. Okay, so just be careful on that one. You didn't need to change it, but just be aware of that for any questions like that in the future. Question 10. Dealing with congruence and similarity. Congruence is when the shapes are identical, same sides, same angles, and they can be turned and flipped and all of that. But these are similar. And that means we've got the same shape, same basic shape, all the angles are the same, but the sides are different. So the first one, when it says the value of angle Y, which is this one, corresponds to that. So that one is just 30 degrees. Okay. And the next one is work out the value of X, which is this side here. And we've got a measure there, but we don't know the scale factor. We don't know how many times bigger that is than that just yet. So what we can do is we can work it from there. We can do 15 divided by 6. Similar idea. Let's show that so we can actually see the screen. 15 over 6. And again, we've got a decimal, so press the format button at the bottom, change it down to a decimal, and we've got 2.5. So that tells me that the scale from this to this, we're multiplying by 2.5. 6 times 2.5 gives us 15, so now we do the same. We're going to do the same with there. We're going to do 3 times 2.5. And I've already got my 2.5 there, so I can now multiply that by 3, and again format and change it to a decimal, and I get 7.5. So that one is 7.5 centimeters, again, as it's 3 times, well, say 2.5 times bigger. On to 11, algebra. Gives us 2 expressions, show that A and B are equivalent. So first thing I want to do is, I'm just going to draw the line down the center because I'm doing a comparison. So first off, let's rewrite that. So I've got 7x minus 2 plus 4x plus 6. So I'm going to do, first thing, we're going to multiply. So I'm going to do 7 times x to give me 7x, and then 7 times minus 2. So 7 times 2 gives me 14, and a positive times a negative is a negative. And then we carry on, got plus 4x plus 6. Okay. Now, what I always tell you to do with these, we have no equal sign, so we're collecting like terms. Put a line after each term. 7x minus 14 plus 4x plus 6. And we can then put them in order. So I've got 7x plus 4x. And they're both used up, minus 14 plus 6. And now I can deal with that. So 7x plus 4x is going to give me 11x. And I start off at minus 14, and I'm adding 6. Okay, so think about it as money. You're £14 overdrawn. You put £6 in the account. You're now only £8 overdrawn. So it's 11x minus 8. Okay. Same with the other one. I've got only this time I've got 5 times 3x plus 2, and then minus 4x minus 18. They do look quite different, but let's go through it. So again, 5 times 3x is going to give me 15x. 5 times a positive 2 is going to give me plus 10. And then I can copy in the rest, minus 4x minus 18. Draw the lines. So I've got 15x plus 10 minus 4x plus 18. So when I put those in order, I get 15x minus 4x plus 10 minus 18. And the final step, 15x minus 4x leaves us with 11x. And we start off with plus 10, so we've got £10 in the account, but we spend 18, so we end up £8 over. So we have proved that they are equivalent because they are exactly the same. So, and again, I've shown every single step as we come through there. 3 marks. So you've got to show enough to evidence that, okay? But you don't have to be as detailed as me all the time. Okay? So then we're on to another price one. Question 12. 4 apples cost £2.20. So work out the cost of 7 of these apples. So realistically, we need to find out the cost of 1. So if I do £2.20 divided by 4, and again, press format, down to decimal, and I get 0.55. So that means that each of the 7 apples is going to be 55 pence, because that's part of the pound. And I can take that 0.55 and times it by 7. So again, still got my answer on there, so I can leave that on the screen and I can just press multiply by 7. So answer times by 7, still get a decimal, and I get £3.85. And that is our answer, £3.85 for 7 apples. Okay. There are other ways of doing it, ways of breaking it down, but as long as we've got the right answer with the proof of how we got it, we'll still get our marks. So question 13. So Ingrid records number of minutes she uses a mobile phone over 4 weeks, and we want the range. And the range is highest take away the lowest. So we look at that, we've got 205 as our highest, and our lowest is 140. So as we go through that, we take that away. We can do it that way. Calculate the paper, let's do it the quick way. Clear all that. 205, take away 140, and we get 65. So the range is 65 minutes. 65 minutes difference between those two. Okay. Now, Ingrid records number of minutes for the 5th week, and now the mean for all 5 weeks is 178 minutes. Now, if we look at those numbers, we've got 140, 168, 205, 192, and something we don't know yet. Okay, and when we divide that by how many, which is 5, we get 178. Okay, so that's the basic idea of it. So what we need to do is we need to add those up. So 140 plus 168 plus 205, 192. Let's do that on here. So I'll clear that up. Hopefully you see the screen. And I can see, I know I've covered up these, but I can see the numbers at the top of the page, so don't worry too much about that. So we've got 140 plus 168 plus 205 plus, and our last one, 192. and that gives me 705 minutes so far. So I'm just going to make a note of that there, 705 so far for that. That's for the 4 of them together. So we need to work out what the difference is. Now 5 numbers give us a mean of 178. So if I do 178 times 5, that gives me 890. So imagine if they were all that, then it must add up to 890. So all I need to do now is do my 890, take away what these 4 add up to. So again, my answer's still on the screen, so I'm just going to take away my other total, which was 705. And I get an answer of 185. So our missing value here must have been 185. So that means in the 5th week, she was on the phone for 185 minutes. Again, different ways of showing it. I'm just showing the basics, breaking it down into chunks for you. Okay. Question 14, typical kind of matching question, and it says match each description and the one of done being done. So 2 more than n, we know it's n plus 2. N doubled, so that's 2 lots of n. So that is up here, you can just about see it there, 2n, that's 2 times n. N multiplied by itself, so we know multiplying something by itself, it's squared, which is down here. So n squared. Half of n, well, to get half of anything we divide it by 2, don't we? So there we have n divided by 2, and 2 less than n, and that's just the opposite of what we were doing here, 2 more than n. So we're looking for n minus 2, which is here, n minus 2, and that's 4 marks. That's a great type of question if you get them. Question 15 tells us a rectangle has an area of 60 centimeters squared and a side length of 10. So if I do a quick sketch of that, the inside is 60 centimeters squared and a side length of 10. And we know that if we do base times height, then we will get our 60. So opposite, I'm now going to do 60 divided by 10, and that is going to give me a side length of 6 centimeters. Okay. So I'll put that on there, 6 centimeters. Not to stop you on a question like this, make a sketch, make it easy. Okay. So we know 6 times 10 gives us 60, so we're right there, and it wants the perimeter. And of course the perimeter is add all sides, so we've got 6 over here and we've got 10 over there. So when we do that part, we can say we've got 6 plus 10 plus 6 plus 10, and that is going to give me 32 centimeters. So he says the perimeter of the rectangle is 32 centimeters because 6 divided by 10 is 6. Yeah, he's right. He's got to be covered all on the rest of that, hasn't he? Good. Question 16, rearranging formulas. And people really don't dislike these, I know. So basically, I'm going to just put this a little bit below there, because it's 1 mark, it's 1 step. But I'm going to show you just that bit clearly. We know something plus 3 equals b, and we want to get a on its own. So the way to get a on its own, we are going to have to get rid of the plus 3, so we take away 3, and of course we have to take away on both sides to keep it equal. So that means a, it's on its own, and b, take away 3. Now we don't know the value of b, so we can't actually take it away, so we have to show that it needs to happen. So it's b minus 3, and that is our answer, b minus 3. Again, 1 mark, you can just go straight for the answer for that one. You don't have to show the working out. I've done that to hopefully make sense for those who, often, well, I'll be honest, don't even attempt a rearranged question. Question 17, and it's basically, it's a best buy. Which packet of rice is better value for money? We can get 200 grams for £1.10, or we can get 500 grams for £2.60. And the problem here is they are in different size packets. So we can't compare them as they are. We need an equivalent. Okay. Now what we could do is we could do £1.10 divided by 200 to get the price for 1 gram, and so on with that one to divide it by 500. But it's going to get really small values here. 200 and 500 all made up of 100 grams. So if I halve this one, so A, we know that £1.10 gets us 200 grams. So if I halve that, I'm going to divide it by 2. I can get that now, and I've got, so half of £1.10, well, half of a pound is 50 pence, half of 10 is 5, so we have got 55 pence, but I'm going to still show it in that pound format at the moment, and half of 200 is 100 grams. Okay, so we've now got a price per 100 grams for that one. B, going to do the same. We know that £2.60 gets us 500 grams, and I want to get that down to 100 grams. And to get from 500 to 100, I'm going to be divided by 5. So I'm going to do £2.60 divided by 5. So again, let's clear this off from our previous one. There you go. £2.60 divided by 5. Change the format into decimal, and it's 0.52. So what we're saying is A is 55 pence per 100 grams and B is 52 pence per 100 grams. So we can see there that B is cheaper. And if we really wanted to make absolutely sure, we could say that 0.55 is greater than 0.52. And that proves it beyond our doubt. Okay. Question 18. Sneaky little one, but it's only worth 1 mark, so it's not as complicated as it looks. You want to write down the ratio of number of days using the bus to the number of days using the train. So the number of days using the bus was 1, and the number of days using the train was 8. Why they've shown it in that format, I don't know, just to try and catch us out, but that will do us. Okay. Now, the next one. This is one of those rare ones with ratio when you've got it in the form of n to 1. And when it says that, that means that that value must reduce down to 1. And the one on the other side will reduce by the same scale. And it will probably end up as a decimal for that. Okay. So if we start off, we've got 6a to 5a. And to go down to that, we are dividing by, well, basically, if we divide by 5a on each, we're getting rid of the a's as well, aren't we? And I can actually ignore the a's because we're not going to bother with those. So I'm going to do 6 divided by 5. Again, calculator paper, let's make it easy for us. Clear that. 6 divided by 5. We get a decimal, and it's 1.2. So that is 1.2 to 1. Like I say, if it's a form of n to 1, the n will more than likely end up as a decimal. And the last one for these, we've got 2 ratios, but we know they are equal. So the ratio of 1 to something is equal to the ratio of something to 4. And for that one, basically, the value of x is going to be 2. Because if we look, the ratio of 1 to 2 and the ratio of 2 to 4, they are the same ratio, aren't they? Because 2 to 4 is 1 to 2. Okay. 1 mark question. Didn't need to worry too much on that one. 19. Frequency trees. So, 2 spinners have only red sections and green sections, and it gives us the probability of red for each, which is on our table already. And we just need, first thing is complete the diagram. 2 marks. So, ignoring that one for now, if you've got a 3 in 8 chance of it being red, that means 3 out of the 8 square segments are red. So that means that 5 out of the 8 must be green. And likewise now on this one, there's 5 segments. 1 is red, so that means the other 4 must be green. And we do the same there because it copies down. That's it, 2 marks for that. The next one, 1 mark. It says, work out the probability that both spinners land on red. So first one going to red and the second one going to red. So we look at our probabilities. So the first one is 3/8. And the second one is 1/5. And multiplying fractions, nice and easy, do the top, do the bottom. So 3 times 1 gives us 3, and 8 times 5 gives us 40. And that is our answer, 3/40. Question 20. So we're doing a time series graph. We're basically just marking off our data. So day 1 is 49,000. I'm just going to zoom back out a bit so we can make a bit more sense of this one, so we can see it. So 49,000. Now they go up in 10,000s and it's 5 squares. So for 49,000, we are basically half a square under 50,000. 2 is 95,000. So that's halfway between 90,000 and 10,000. Then we've got 87,000. So that is roughly there. Day 4, 77,000. And day 5, 64,000. Gives me here. And 6 is 48,000. So we'll be going there. Okay. Now, try and be as accurate as you can with these. Now, if we now join them up, you'll notice, because some of you may think, well, I always need to draw the graph from 0 and so on and so forth. Not with this one, because we've only got data from day 1, not from beyond. So we can't deal with that, the first part of it. Okay. So we're done there, and I'm just going to quick fast forward to the next question because we're going to be coming back to that table. So, where are we? Yeah. So he receives 0.018 pence for each view of the advert, and we're going to estimate how much he receives from views on day 7. We haven't got information for day 7. Table doesn't go up that far. So if we do a rough guide, we see that this is on a downward trajectory. So I'm going to make life easy for myself. I'm going to go about there, okay? Because if I join that up, we can see it does reflect the general gist of that one. And that comes in at 30,000. And I'm going to use that. Remember, it's only an estimate. So as long as you're within a range, you're fine. But I'm going to use 30,000 because it gives me a nice number to work with. I'll get rid of that for now. So now we've got our 30,000 views. We're going to multiply it by 0.018. So cleared all that off. 30,000 times 0.018, and it gives me 540. Now this is the next step, because that in itself is not difficult. We've marked it on the graph, first mark. We've got our working to get our second, but here that is in pence, so that means this is in pence, and we want the answer in pounds. So 540 pence is equal to £5.40. Okay, and that is my answer, £5.40. Now here we've got discs in a box, so we've got 70% of them are red and the rest are blue, and then it gives us some more information about that. Okay, so it doesn't tell us how many there are, so my advice, something like that, is just deal with the percentages. So we say red and blue, so we've got 70. If 70% are red, then the rest must be 30% to be blue. We're going to remove 40% of the red discs, so we need to find 40% of 70. Now, so if I do I can do 0.4 times 70, because 40% is a decimal, or I can find 10%, which is 7, and times it by 4, which is 28. So we're going to, this side, we're going to take away 28 of the discs, and 70, take away 28, we're going to end up with 42. So there are 42 left. And here, we're going to take away 50% of them, and 50% of 30 is 15, so we're going to take away 15, which means we're left with 15. But it wants what percentage of the discs are removed from the box. And we have removed, so we have got left there. Two ways we can do it. I'm going to look at what's left. I've got 42 and 15. So 42 plus 15, that gives me, so I've got 7 there, so I've got 57. Now remember, this was all out of 100, wasn't it? So we've got 57 discs out of that 100 left. So I can just do, and I'll do this under here, just because we've got the room. So 100, take away 57, and we will end up with, let's do it properly. Show all the borrows. So we end up with 3 there, and we end up with 4. So it's been reduced by, basically we've reduced the amount by 43%. Okay. So we've got a trip, a group of adults and students go to a theme park. We've got the prices, and it tells us 1 adult free with every 5 students. Okay. In the group there are 48 students, and we've got a total price, so we want to know how many adults are in the group. So let's deal with what we know first. 48 students, and we're going to times those by the price of a ticket, so £16.25. So clear all that off. 48 times £16.25, and it gives me 780. So that's £780. I know my total is 927, so 927, take away 780. And we get 104, we're left with 147. So we got £147, okay? I realised I zoomed out before, let's zoom back in again. There we go, should be clearer. And that is the cost then for the adults. So we can take that cost, £147, and we can divide it by the cost of an adult ticket, £24.50. So I'm going to take my answer and divide it by £24.50, and that gives me straight off an answer of 6. So that means there are 6 adults, and we think, great, so far so good, we're on it. It's worth 4 marks. I've only done 3 steps to get 6 adults, and we've got to come back to this step now. 1 adult free with every 5 students. Okay. Because this 927, and what we've worked out is how many paid. So we've got 48 students, we've got 6 adults. Okay. They're the ones that paid, but we've got a bunch free for every 5 students. So there are 48 students, divided by 5. We do 48 divided by 5, and it gives us a fraction. Now, it gives us 9.6. Of course, we can't have 0.6 of an adult, so this one will only be 9 adults. Okay, because if we rounded it up to 10, there wouldn't be enough students to cover that free ticket. Okay, so we have to round it down. Even though we look at that at 0.6, it's rounded down to 9 adults. So that brings us back to our original. We've got 6 adults who paid to get in, and we've also got 9 adults who didn't. So 6 plus 9 gives us 15. So that was a sneaky little bit at the end, that one. 1 adult free with every 5 students. But there we go. We've got our 4 steps. So we're okay. Now we've got error intervals. The length of a fence panel is 160 centimeters to the nearest 10 centimeters. And complete the error interval. Now, with these, look at what you've rounded it by. So at this moment, it's 10 centimeters. Half of that is 5 centimeters. And what we do is we take away 5 centimeters that way, and we add 5 centimeters going the other way. So we had 160, so take away 5, we get 155, and add 5, we get 165. Now, don't forget, you've got this symbol here. So the length, so if the length is greater than or equal to 155, it's going to round up to 160. And here we haven't got the extra line, so if the length is less than 165, it would round down to 160. Because of course 165 would round up to the next. Okay, and that's all they're after. Find half of what they've rounded it by, take it away, add it, done. Okay. And on the next one, we've got the same idea. Different fence panel measures 2 meters, again to the nearest 10 centimeters. And Kim says the total length of 3 of these fence panels must be less than 6.2 meters. Show that she is correct. So they're not saying that she's not wrong, they're saying she is, we just need to prove it. So, same idea. First one, the middle one, it was saying it's being rounded to 2 meters. So we need to find the highest and the lowest that it could be. Rounds it to nearest 10 centimeters. So again, we go 5 centimeters either side. So we can have 1.95 meters, or we could have 2.05 meters. It says total length of 3 of these panels must be less than 6.2. So we're interested in the longest possible it could be. So if the longest possible it could be is 2.05, 2.05, and we're going to times that by 3. And that will, well, that's going to give me 6.15 meters. And we can say now, nice and safe, that 6.15 is less than 6.2, and I'm just going to put the extra 0 on there just to make it clear. Okay. We're done. We've shown it. We've proved it. Circle the expression, which is a factor of 3x plus 15. 1 mark. And as I go through it, I could explain each and every one. I'm not going to. It's this one. Because if we times that by 3, we get 3x, and we times that by 3, we get 15. And that's why that is a factor. Okay. Now we get into some nastier ones. So now we're given a circle, centre 0, and it has a circumference of 20 centimeters. We're assuming that that is 90 degrees, and we want the shaded area. So basically, for area, we need pi r squared. For circumference, it's pi times diameter. Now they've given us the circumference, so we know pi times our diameter gives us 20 centimeters. So let's do that in reverse. Let's do 20 divided by pi. And I'm going to go through this. So cleared off that one. 20 divided by pi, and I get, oh, I didn't completely mess that one up. Let's do that again. 20 divided by shift and then 7 to get pi, and that gives me lots of numbers. Okay, now at this point I'm just going to put 6.366, okay, just to give us an idea. And that is our diameter. So we need to take our 6.366 and halve it. So I'm now going to divide that by 2, and I've got 3.183, and that is now my radius. Okay. So did the reverse of pi d to find out the diameter, halved it to get the radius, and now I can work with the circumference of the circle, with the area of the circle. but we're assuming that is 90 degrees. So, and that's all we want is the shaded area. So we can do 90 over 360 times by pi times by 3.183 squared. And that, let's do this one. So we're doing, clear off everything. We've got 90 over 360, remembering to move that to the side, times by pi times by, and what did we say it was? 3.183 squared. And that gives me, and I've got here, so I've got 7.957. Now I'm doing it to, basically I've got the 3 decimal places on this one because it was easier for the rounding, because each time it worked out like that, and that will give me centimeters squared. Okay, now on the mark scheme, pretty much as long as you had something around the range of 7.9 something in that range, then you'd be fine. So I'm going to put my 7.957. It said give your answer as a decimal. We've gone decimal. It didn't specify how many decimal places to do it to, so we had a little bit of leeway there. We could effectively do what we wanted with our decimal points. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now on 25b, it says, in fact, angle X is smaller than 90. And what does this mean for the shaded area? Of course, if we look at that part of it, if it was less than 90, that would be less. So our fraction would be smaller, but we're multiplying it by. So we can safely say it is smaller than the answer to part A. Okay, so I was off the screen when I ticked that box, but yes, it is smaller than the answer to part A. And the last one. We saved the best to last, it's trig. So it says use trigonometry to work out the value of X. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put SOHCAHTOA. And of course I'm going to write it out in that format. And then I need to name the sides. The longest side opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. And that is the given angle. And that side, when we look at that, that is opposite, which means this one must be adjacent because it's next to it. Okay. Now, we're given the adjacent. So when I look through there, we've got adjacent there and we've got adjacent there, but not there. So sine is out and we need the opposite. And the opposite is there, but not there. So it's going to be this. And we need to find the opposite. So if I bring that back down there, opposite is equal to, and I'll cover up the O. My hand's in the way there. Cover up the O, and I've got T times A. So that means the tangent times the adjacent. So we can now substitute what we know. The angle is that, so the tan of 36 times by 4. And that should give us our calculation correct then. So let's bring this up, clear everything off again. So I've got tan 36, remember to close the brackets, times by 4, and I get 2.9061 and so on and so on. Okay, so I'm going to just, to be honest, I am going to round it. I'm going to go 2 decimal places for there, 2.9, and that's going to round to 1. Okay, 2.91 centimeters. And that is done. Again, it didn't specify what we rounded to, so on the mark scheme they are going to give you basically, as long as you've got 2.9, you're good. Okay, you've got the working out to prove it. Basically, we've labelled it, we've picked the right rule, we've substituted, and we've calculated. So we're good for our marks there. Okay, and more importantly, end of questions. Hope this helped. Another video to pop up over Easter, which will be the video for the mock assessment. So I'll post that up at the beginning of Easter, even though we won't be doing feedback till we come back. It'll give you a chance to have a look and go through it while it's still fresh in your minds. So that would pop up on the Friday afternoon. Okay. Hope it was of some use to you. See you soon.